Hello and welcome to another episode of FinTech Focus TV with me, Toby Babb, and today I am absolutely delighted to have into the show Ben Davis from Native. Ben, how are you?
Great, thanks so much for having me.
Listen, great to have you in here. We've been finding out a little bit about the business beforehand. You are months into the evolution of the business at the moment, which is always an exciting time. As I said to you before, I love speaking to founders about this sort of stage. There's so much excitement about it, there's so much opportunity around it, and invariably loads and loads of passion about what you're talking about. You're in an area which is very dear to my heart. I think the digital asset space is ever evolving. We've been talking off camera about some of the stories that and the journey we've been on with it. But I think it's just one of those places where there's so much opportunity and so much evolution and so much innovation that they always make great episodes when we're talking about this sort of thing as well. But in an area like that, there's so much change and opportunity that it needs innovators to come in and needs people to keep on doing it. You're in an area which we haven't covered on this show before. Looking at it from the insurance side of it, and I think it's an incredibly important part of it to bring into action as well. So I'm looking forward to this one.
Let's do it. Me too, man. This is great.
We're going to talk a little bit through the origin story and then go through what the future holds, where the industry goes, loads of stuff in between it. So let's kick off with you. I said before, your background's a really interesting one about where you've been from, where you've come from. Give us a little bit of background about your story so far.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on this show. I know you've had some really great people, so to be, part of that now cohort is amazing, so thank you. So I really been in insurance for 13 years, originally from Canada, from Toronto. I've lived in the UK now for 9 years. And I really, I started in broking, so insurance broking, traditional, actually non-profits at the beginning. And then when I came over to London, I fell into underwriting at a company called CFC Underwriting and was looking at professional indemnity for companies in Canada. And then essentially in 2017, I got really sick. So I had a condition that I was born with and that I've been kind of fighting for a number of years before I moved over to London. And in 2017, something had to be done about it. It was just becoming, my quality of life wasn't really, it was really tough. And so my employer, I will always be forever grateful to them. They gave me the time to go have my operation and then that time to recover. And if you've ever been through a big major operation, it takes a long time to feel like yourself again. And when I was recovering, I remember just having this thought of, I really want to make this time worth something. I don't want this time to have been wasted. I don't know what that looks like, but I want to make something of myself during this really tough time in my life. Yeah. And I happened upon...
And this is when you're convalescing at that sort of time.
Yeah. So I was still couldn't really go to work, still having trouble walking and things like that. So it was a long time just on the couch and in bed. My fiance, my now wife, was amazing, kind of taking care of me, but I couldn't really do much. So I eventually found this video on YouTube that was all about blockchain, and I thought, well, this sounds really interesting.
When doom scrolling goes well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I watched this video, and at the end of it, I thought, oh, this is really interesting. I never really heard of blockchain or thought about it that much before. I'm going to keep going. And so I watched another one, ordered a few books, started investing, and just really fell down this rabbit hole and realized that it made so much sense, and fell in love with the tech and fell in love with the community and the ambitions of the community. Yeah. And so I really started seeing the light, and then I got back into work, and was starting to do presentations at my company and saying, here's this incredible technology. As an insurance underwriting company, we need to start understanding the risks of this technology so that we can insure it and help the community move forward. And so I started doing it there and was starting to actually go out.
Insurance has never been an industry which has been massively tech.
No,
it's never run towards tech in quite the same.
No, it always kind of is a number of steps back, kind of that late adoption area. And so when I started educating people, I started meeting people, and that actually got me into founding my first company, which is a company called CoinCover, and we did blockchain protection and looking at insuring individual retail users for their cryptocurrency holdings. After that, I then went to Superscript, which is an insurtech broker in London, and headed up their digital asset team for the last 4+ years.
If you go back to the first company you founded, how did that role wind up for you?
Yeah, so it's still going. It's still going today. They do a lot of disaster recovery.
And you exited, did you?
I left, parted ways with them. I wanted to do more of that insurance stuff, and they were kind of pivoting to more of the guarantee, not so much the insurance policy side of things. And my vision has always been for companies, and we can kind of talk about why in a bit, but I was really passionate about doing insurance for companies, and so when I joined Superscript and I was able to kind of build that book and build the team, that was kind of scratching the itch of like, okay, I think we can really help change the industry by providing that protection blanket that it needs.
And you grew as the head of digital assets over there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so we became the largest dedicated digital asset team in the world. We had a ton of great clients. Yeah, and so we really started building it out, and that's when we saw the vision of what a company that was native to this space could look like. And then so Native was born out of that. So my co-founder, Dan Ross, I've known him for
I always like where the name comes from. And I'm also amazed that Native is on. It's the hardest thing naming a company, isn't it? It's was Native there that's available.
Yeah, there's a story there. So we actually hired a brand and naming strategist to help us come up and tell the story appropriately. And we got him to come up with 100 names of what we could be called. And Native was the first one. And the moment he said it, we were like, that's it. And the problem is any naming strategist will always say, don't fall in love with the name because there's intellectual property stuff, you know, different copyright thing, you know, there's law, you might not be able to get the URL. And so all of us looked at each other and were like, that's it. But we had to keep going on with the process because we didn't want to fall in too much in love with it. And every name we found, we kept comparing it to Native, and we got to just do this. So Dan, my co-founder, was able to get the URL, which is native.inc, which is a great URL in today's day in society. And we did all the IP checks and everything, and the name searches came back clear. And so that's how it was born. And really,
sorry to cut in. Just go back to it. So you're there, and you're head of digital assets, and you talk about a co-founding team and all that sort of. Tell me how it actually got to the stage of moving from there to then starting the business.
Yeah. So 2 years ago, Dan and I came together, and we thought we had a little piece of work where we said, where do we think the industry is going to be in 3, 4, 5 years from that point? And we put together a business plan.
The industry being the insurance
crypto industry. The crypto insurance industry. How are our competitors going to move? How is this space going to develop? What are the products that are going to come out? What's the tech that needs to get there? And
that's a difficult thing to predict 5 years ahead in that world, isn't it?
It was, but do you know what the craziest thing was? And this is like, you know, anybody knows me knows I hate tooting my own horn. But we were right on a lot of this stuff. And we realized that. So we put this all together 2 years ago, and we said, this is what's going to happen. We need to be here in order to get ahead of that. And there were some things happening where we weren't able to do it at Superscript. And so we thought, well, if this industry needs this to get to this point, we are compelled, we have to do this. And we had a number of people in the community coming to us and being like, guys, you're really onto something here. Like, we'll support you. You know, if you need a partner, you need clients, money, whatever, we'll give it to you.
Amazing.
And so
that's what you want before it all.
And you know, and that was very organic. You know, people were just coming, like, we didn't even have those conversations with people. They just came to us and said, you know, we know you guys are onto something here. We'd love to support you. Like, if you guys do something, keep us in your back pocket. And so that's kind of the genesis of it. And then we had an amazing team. And we thought, you know, whatever we do is going to be for the team and for the community. And that was our 2 biggest priorities, was building a brokerage that served the community and that had on-chain capabilities. And that's really where that's why the name appealed to us so much, is because there's no other broker in the world, insurance broker in the world, that has on-chain capabilities. And so we wanted to build something native for the community. That risk hub, that risk center, that allowed crypto companies to grow and hire and get regulation and enter into contracts and attract high-profile directors on their board to get to that next stage. And insurance was that massive gap. I mean, there is no other excluded asset class as much as digital assets in the world. Digital assets is the most excluded asset class. And we saw it and we said, how could this tech that is promising so much to so many fall into this gray black hole of underwriters not understanding the risks and not, quite frankly, not really caring about whether they write it or not. And knowing that we had the support, we had the money, we had the team, we had people that wanted this product, we just said, well, we're going to go build this.
No-brainer.
And we linked up with our other co-founder, James Assad, who's in Canada, and he really helped us form the high-level concept. He really helps us take us from working in the business to working outside of the business and giving us that kind of heads-up vision. And so we came together, we found the right people, and we made it a thing. And, I had wanted this to happen sooner because I have a 4-month-old daughter now. And so I always make the joke of, I've got twins, one's a baby, one's a business, because literally the business and the baby were born probably within the same month. Yeah, very, very close. And so it's been, it's been a lot, but it's been the most amazing.
What a time to start. Both of them together.
Yeah. It's been incredible.
And how are you managing that?
Yeah, luckily I've got an amazing wife who's very patient and forbearing. So she's been my rock really with being able to do this. We had a conversation a while back, and I said, look, the timing is going to be pretty weird on this. I think it's going to be pretty consecutive. And she just said, you need to do this. I know you, I trust you, let's go through this together. And just having that reassurance and that, that partner in your life that gets it and gets the mission, she has been the key to success really for me.
It is so underestimated and so important, isn't it? That support from family in whichever way, shape and guide.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think, there's a lot you go through. There's a lot that you need to do when you're founding a business, and even at various stages when I'm talking to people about people maybe going through Series A or Series B or Series C, the stress that goes into that and how you have to give yourself to that process. The same as when you're starting up a business and it's all in. There is a lot that you need to give to that, and to have the support of people around you in that process is so underestimated, I think.
It's I don't know how people don't do it without that, because there is a lot of stuff, and this last year has been incredibly difficult with a few things. There's a couple rough patches with the pregnancy, certain tests and things that were coming back, and I was trying to do all this stuff, and it's just there's no way people can, or I don't know how people get to do that without having that really good support network. It is crucial, and also not even having that at home, but also the team that you bring on. I'm incredibly blessed to have the people and the caliber and the trust that we have within our team. I mean, we're already 8 people.
Wow.
As a company. And it was funny, when we were raising money, we had a number of investors that looked at us and said, get it, great product, you're serving an underserved community, you're already successful, you've got the connections, but why are you doing it with all these people? Why don't you just do it, yourselves and pocket the cat, and kind of do it that way? And we said, no, we're either doing this together or not doing this. And then we found Nexus Mutual, who invested $2 million into us, and right from day one they said, we get it, you don't need to explain yourselves, these are the best in the business, these are the best, I believe the best in the world, you get them. And there was never a conversation after that, and that was
That's incredible, isn't it?
And so linking up with that partner.
This is all pre-launch.
Pre-launch, yeah.
And so you're going, you've left Superscript, you're there on the marketplace, you're looking to build this business, you've got the your first child on the way and all this this sort of thing, and you go out and right, we've got to do this, we've got to raise that sort of thing. You must have been absolutely dead set on this being a problem that needs solving, and a problem that's going to be adopted at the same time as well. What gave you that certainty? And talk to me about the sort of feedback so far and how it's working.
So
that's incredible. In honesty, to have that sort of thing at this sort of stage. The other side of it is in an area that's got pretty public volatility around it is in the digital assets world. In a time where funding has been difficult to come by for so many people, to have a business there who said, yeah, we get it, we're backing you, and putting 2 million.
Yeah, the whole thing. Yeah, everything we asked for.
As well. That's the story, right?
Yeah, it is, and it felt great to have a partner that, like Nexus Mutual, that just got the vision, and we really coincided with their strategy to get more into commercial insurance. So it was really kind of a match made in heaven. But what was so convincing for us is the horror stories of clients in the space that have said, look, I've been trying to work with this broker, I've had to explain blockchain 5 times. And they still don't get it, or we've had a claim, we've looked at the wording wasn't even remotely fit for purpose. Yeah. And we had again and again and again and again. And then speaking with clients and prospective clients, and they just said, oh, like, it's obvious you guys are in the space, so we don't need to explain things. We can just kind of crack on with what we need. You've already got the distribution, you've already got the relationship with insurers, it's quite simple from that. And so that combined with the technology piece, with the on-chain side of things. So because Nexus Mutual has invested into us, they also put 10 million into our syndicate on their platform. So that allows us, without getting too into the weeds and the details, that allows us to underwrite up to 10 million per risk, following on primary traditional insurance that we're placing, which all that means is we are able to get more capacity, more flexible terms than another broker, because they won't be able to access that on-chain side of things. And so when we were looking at all this and we said, okay, we've got this incredible client demand, we've got an industry that has historically underserved them, and we've got this tech piece and capital behind us to really go and solve this problem, it then became, it's hard to unsee something, and then so once it clicks, you're like, well, I have to do it. There's no way I can go on my day-to-day job and unsee what I've already seen. And then you're compelled. You have to do it. You have to go out there and help the community in that way. And so that was really the impetus. And then from the launch last week, we thought about how the launch would go, and it's really kind of blown away all of our expectations with the response off the back of it, from hearing some of the best known names in crypto reaching out to us privately and saying, we really need to talk to you guys. We've been trying to solve this problem for years. We haven't been able to. Can you guys come and do this?
And how do they hear about this?
That was from predominantly LinkedIn. So we had a exclusive in CoinDesk that came out and picked up some great traction. Because we've been in the space for 7 years, we've had some great relationships and connections on LinkedIn and word of mouth. And within the first 3 or 4 days, our inbox was full of people just saying, thank you for doing this. I mean, even brokers, even insurance brokers in the space that we've been talking with, they said, a lot of them just said, finally, I'm so glad somebody's doing this, because it's just kind of crying out for this, somebody to fill this gap in the market. And so, just having that kind of affirmation that, actually the vision we had 2 years ago was right and it was needed. And so, So it's an interesting thing here, isn't it? That in business, look, timing's everything, right, at various different stages. And we've seen, as intimated a couple of times so far, we've seen this sort of roller coaster of digital assets at various different phases. And as I said before coming on air, a panel I was moderating a couple of years ago was talking about restoring trust in digital assets. And in that conversation, insurance didn't come up once. Maybe 18 months ago is where we had that. What came up was communication, trust through education and all that sort of stuff. Insurance wasn't there at that sort of time. Interestingly, you talk about the first in the world to do something. Now, the first in the world to change the game is a great place to be, or it's not at various different stages. Because is it too early? I've spoken to various different people in this industry about saying, right, they've got a great product, but have they gone too early with it all? Absolutely. To me, this feels like particularly what's happening. We're talking the day after election day today, and a president coming in who's pro digital currency, etc. There is the potential. Bitcoin at its highest for however many years.
there is a potential for this to be absolutely incredible timing for you within all of this. And sometimes, it's by design, sometimes it's there. It feels like this is something which is absolutely needed. And I think you before we came on, you talked about this being the last hurdle for digital assets. So expand on that a little bit for us.
Yeah, it's such a great point. And the reason why I'm laughing is because we've had some of the worst timing over the last few years. We've launched products. We launched a product just after Terra Luna collapsed. We then came out with a big announcement just before FTX failed.
Yeah.
And then when we were doing the launch, we realized, oh no, we are launching the day before the budget. And we're like, no one's going to pick this up. No one's going to care. And luckily, people did pick it up, and we had some great response. And then with the recent election,
I think
and
everyone's looking for something else other than budget news.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, some distraction, please. And just seeing the tailwinds come out. Actually, it feels like we broke the curse a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Thinking about and kind of trying to put my binoculars on and trying to kind of project, I really think 2025 is the year that insurance starts becoming a more of that talked about topic.
Yeah.
Because for the last, since Bitcoin really started coming out in circulation, like 2009, after the white paper in 2008, started getting mined and coming into people's spheres, insurance has always been that silent partner, that silent thing that, there's maybe been one talk at a conference of 40, 50 different sessions, maybe one gets insurance, but and that is very much it's very much viewed as
it's not a crowd pleaser.
No, it's But the funniest thing is I've been in insurance for 13 years. I've done insurance for most of the industries out there. I've never met an industry that is more excited about talking about insurance than crypto.
Yeah.
Right, I've done media, mining, transportation. You go to these conferences or events, you say you're insurance, people are, all right, they're trying to avoid you, like if you're contagious or something.
I've been there.
Yeah. And so, but when you go to these conferences and you talk to people, you say, oh, do digital asset insurance. Oh, what's that? That's really cool. How come I've never heard of it?
Yeah.
And it's just this open secret kind of that people haven't really delved into. And so that's why I think. So why is timing right now? One, we've got more infrastructure. So we've got more companies that have lasted over cycles, that have proven the test of time, that now have proper market share and infrastructure that can support clients that are now, so great example are, the MPC wallet technology providers like Fireblocks or other custodians like BitGo, Copper, MetaMask Institutional, things like that, that have these companies that now have quite a lot of assets that if something goes wrong, it could be
it's game changer.
It's game changer, company ender, whatever. And they now have not just one or two of these clients, but entire portfolios of these clients that need risk transfer.
Well, we've seen company enders already in this space, right?
If you look at FTX, they ended because of no risk management, right? They did not think and they did not manage the downside. You can go into...
But they didn't only end them, they had a knock-on effect.
It almost it crippled great businesses. And that was the problem, is it didn't just shake out the bad businesses, it actually shook out good businesses that just happened to catch the contagion, right? And so this is why it's so important today, is because we're now at that stage where people could lose a lot of money and you need to start transferring that risk. It's not good corporate governance to hold all that risk on your balance sheet. You can't do it. You can't get regulation that way. So that's number one. Number two, we're seeing a lot more regulations and rules come out from government, from licensing bodies and things like that say if you are holding digital assets, you need to insure up to a certain percentage. I think the US is going to really, actually, now with the regime change, really start driving that out. And I think that's not that far away from the US as well. And number three, I think there is more of a maturation of the industry where you're having people that have been in the industry for a number of years get the risks and realize there is still way too much risk injected in this industry. For a decentralized economy, there's still a lot of centralization risks that we're still seeing today. And so it's trying to just take it all down a few notches by transferring that risk onto an insurer's balance sheet, maybe into a captive, maybe set up a mutual, whatever it is, right? We got to start having these conversations a lot more. And as well, last point is, we fundamentally at Native believe that digital assets is going to be a fundamental part of how we transfer value in the future. You are going to have a wallet that has pounds, euros, US dollars, Bitcoin, ETH, maybe a stable coin in there as well.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be so weird.
Yeah.
Right now it's like, oh, if you own Bitcoin, oh, okay, that's a bit strange, but that won't be that weird. And so if we believe that that is where transfer value is going in the future, we need to start learning how to underwrite with these assets. And so that's the other thing that Native is bringing to the market, is working with a few of our partners and the capital on the balance sheet, the on-chain capital on the balance sheet, is we are working out a way to profitably and correctly underwrite with digital assets as insurance capacity. And so it's all happening all at the same time, which is super exciting.
I mean, it's a great cluster, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that goes back to what you mentioned a second ago and sort of moves us into the future, that you sat down and you had this sort of 5-year vision session of what the industry would look like. And if there's one thing that I can definitely say around the digital asset space, is that prediction is definitely the hardest part of what happens. So you're 2 years into that and you're on point so far, and it's moving in the right direction. What can we expect to see in your Nostradamus guys as what we can expect to see in the industry for the next 3 years? And I think you sort of alluded to that just now a little bit more. But then also for the business, I mean, what does this look like? You're there, you're a few months in. There's 8 of you there. You've got a great investment from a great business straight. There's loads of great validation at the start of this process. Talk to us about what the business looks like, but just let's start with that 5-year piece.
The industry, great. So policy language, I think, is fundamentally going to change. What we've done so far in the industry is shoehorn digital assets into old definitions, slightly amend it, but the policy has stayed the same. Now, there's a few reasons for that, and some of them are good, some of them aren't. But I think we're going to see the cyber or the D&O moment of crypto, where you have this entire new industry that is demanding a certain policy that really comprehensively covers their risk. So there's some gaps right now in policy wording, so you need to buy like a D&O, maybe a tech E&O, and FI wording just to cover what should be one policy. So I think there's going to be a lot more comprehensive modular policies being sold that really get to the heart of these clients' needs. So that's number one. Number two, we're going to see a ton of new carriers in the space. I believe, the conversations we're having now with insurance carriers are light years away from what we were having 3 years ago, where people are like, we don't want to touch it. This is not even on our radar. It's come from on high. Someone doesn't like it. They got burnt. Their cousin got burnt. They don't want it. That conversation is now, we know we need to be in this space. Can you please help us? So I think there's going to be a lot more capacity in this space, and that will take the form of what insurers feel most comfortable with. So every insurer has their own appetite, right? Whether it be cyber, FI, specie, crime. They're going to start taking baby steps into the area that they feel like they know the best, and that's going to happen more predominantly in the UK. I think there's a few markets that are still going to lag behind just because they don't have the mature nature that the UK market does, and that syndication of risk that we have, that we do so well here. So more insurers in the space. I think number three, what is really interesting, is we're going to start seeing alternative risk transfer methods start happening more. So that is clients either starting mutuals, getting into it together, creating community insurance that pool their risk together much better and cover their risks much better than maybe a 1 or 2 insurers can. So I think there's going to be more of that, more captives, maybe some other really interesting hybrid cover that you can do on-chain and off-chain capital to kind of create that. So I think there's going to be that. And then the fourth thing is much more on-chain capabilities for insurance. They're going to be demanding more transparency with how you are evidencing crypto or certificates of insurance. So certificates of insurance as an NFT on chain. That's not going to happen in 2025. That'll probably be 2026. But certainly for 2025, we're going to start seeing clients asking more questions about the on-chain capabilities that brokers have. They have to, because if you look at their service providers, a lot of those service providers are going to have on-chain capabilities. So why shouldn't your insurance broker or your insurance provider? Why is that the gap? Right? So that's going to start happening. For us as a business, I really see us building out the sophistication of the complex. So we are aiming at the more complex, sophisticated end of that risk. So clients that are bigger, that have legacy problems that they've been trying to fix with risk transfer that they just haven't been able to. That's the stuff that that we gravitate towards, really build out. And then partnerships. I think partnerships for us is a massive, massive way of getting to scale in this industry, because at the end of the day, it's a community.
Yeah.
Crypto companies love working together, right?
Yeah.
And so partnerships is that community aspect, and that's why we did this in the first place, is because we wanted to give back to the community and start a broker for them. So partnerships enables us to get in there, foot in the door, and then start having that conversation about risk management, risk transfer, and helping these companies grow by looking after their downside so they can focus on their upside.
I love that dual purpose, because there's a very obvious community-driven sort of aspect to everything you've spoken about. But alongside that, there's a very strong commercial model that works a lot. And when you can put those two things and fuse them together, there's a lot of excitement to be had out there. So I could be talking about this forever, and I told you that half an hour it disappears very, very quickly when you're doing these sort of things. There's loads more to uncover, and maybe when you're there and you've hurdled the first year, we can catch back up on this and see where the business is going and everything you've learned in between, because that's something which we won't have time to cover today. But I think there's so many learns, isn't there, when you go through this sort of thing. And for you to have gone through a couple of startups now and find those various bits and pieces and learn what you picked up from last time and see what happens over the course of this, it's going to be a really exciting thing to come into it. So let's finish with people watching this, Ben, and hearing about Native and getting excited about it and having that sort of passion rub off through the camera onto what they're saying and saying, do you know what, absolutely, this is when we need it. How do they get in touch with you? What's the best way for them to reach out?
So we're on www.native.inc. Check out the website. We've got a form if you want to get in touch there. We've got a LinkedIn page. We're on Warpcast, which is a very crypto-centric social media platform. And very friendly people will respond.
Well, they say Canadians are the nicest people in the world, don't they? So you're living up to the stereotype.
Trying to, at least.
Ben, I wish you the very best of luck. Thanks so much for coming in and sharing all that with it, and thank you all for watching. We will see you on the next episode of FinTech Focus TV. Thanks a lot.